I feel like this is going to be a long, yappy one, but it's one that I wanted to do for a while now. And I wanted to just do like a little recap on life 6 months since graduating from uni. The format of this video is quite different from the ones I've done before because I won't be specifically talking about creativity in this one. It's more just like a personal insight into how my life has been. I just want to give a little preface saying that this is not a guidebook. This is just my life. I have no like big pieces of advice for you in any way, shape, or form. And this is just me talking about talking through what my life looks like right now. And the internet is full of advice and rage about the current job crisis and unemployment and higher education, the state of higher education. Deservedly so. I mean, a lot needs to change, but I won't be contributing to that in this one. It's just going to be a sort of recap of what my life looks like. A bit of background about me. I am 21 and I graduated summer of 2025, so July 2025, with a bachelor's in English and creative writing in the UK, somewhere in the UK. I want to get into creative administration, anything from like performance production to community work. And currently, I'm working as a front of house team member at a local theatre, working at in the cafe bar area. I also want to say that I am an international student. I came to the UK in 2022, did my 3 years of bachelor's here, and I'm staying for another year trying to find a full-time job, which is just, there's so much privilege in that, right? And I want to acknowledge that and be grateful for that, and hopefully be able to talk through that past that point to say like, this is me trying to become my own person and not rely on that privilege for the rest of my life, because I don't want to do that. I hope that comes across as not like a pity party, but just a realistic view of my current situation. So let's start with the cons, because when I was writing this plan out, that's just what came to mind first. I would also like to like point out, like every time I do video, I make like, I'm sure you've seen this if you've seen my videos before, and usually it's like 1 page, like that's how long the notes are. And for this one, it's literally like 5 pages. Like it starts there and it ends there. So it's good. That's why I said it's gonna be a lengthy one. Anyway, so let's start with the cons. I'm not good with change. Never have been. Probably never will be. And that's just something I have to live with. And finishing uni is a big change, apparently, because yeah. So I have a lot of cons to go through. And the first one is that I have never felt this much self-doubt and chronic anxiety probably in my life. I've never doubted my abilities more than now, where I have applied to more than 200 jobs and have uh, gotten to one interview, which is the job I currently have, which is insane. And yeah, I know I'm working hard, but there's always a voice that's like, you should be working harder. You should give up your entire life and spend your entire day on LinkedIn and become a shell of a human being. And the voice is always there. And I'm good at like, sorry, I'm good at like ignoring the voice and being like, no, I still deserve to be a human being and see sunlight once in a while. But it's always like in the back of my mind being like, you could be doing more, which is quite annoying. And probably is the biggest like thing that like consumes my brain at the minute. Not only doubting my abilities to get a full-time job, but now because it's been 6 months, I'm pretty sure when I do get a full-time job, I'm going to be like, okay, but can I actually do this? Like, I know that self-doubt is not going to go when I get a full-time job, and I get a full-time job, it's going to be, okay, but can I do this full-time job? Like, do I have the ability to do this full-time job? Because I haven't had one, like, ever. The other one I would say is I was stressed, but I was not that stressed at the start of third year about getting a job, because I was like, yeah, it's a job crisis, but surely I'll get a job because I'm different, because I'm an overachiever and because I'm the golden kid. I did a student internship and I've done a lot of stuff, and I was, on society committees, and I've done a lot of things basically. And I was like, surely that can't be me. I was like, I wasn't very confident about it, but I was like, I'll surely get a job. All I need to do is like apply to them. And it's been a hit to the ego to know that I am indeed not different. And I think the other cons are quite more general that people like post graduation or post education feel, which is like keeping in touch with your friends. It might be easy for like the first month, but it definitely gets more difficult to sort of stay in touch with people who used to live 20 minutes away from you for like 3 years. And that's quite a hard life change. And I think the other one is just adjusting to or like finding a new routine that works for you, not only in the sense of like your day to day, obviously that is like hugely impacted as well. I didn't have a lot of contact hours when I was at uni, but I still had like a routine of I do these extracurriculars on these days, and I have lectures on these days, and I have meetings on these days and stuff like that. It was quite routine in a day to day sense, but also in the sense of like there was a definite end to like a term and the next term and the term after that and like an academic year. There were many more markers in a year, which I already like miss so much, of just being like, oh, it's break now and I have an assessment period, and then um like the next term begins, if that makes sense. I know it's only been like a term since I've like not been in uni, but that's something I definitely miss, and it's something I feel like I am going to miss in the future as well. So I've been trying to find like my own ways of like marking a 3 month period and being like, I feel like I should do something every 3 months to be like, that was a quarter of the year or something like that. Yeah, those are my main cons from the last 6 months. And now moving on to the pros. Obviously, it's not a full-time job, but it's still a job, and I'm very grateful for that. I'm very grateful for the work experience, getting to meet new people, just being in a theater. Even if it's a starter job, at least it's somewhere I would like to be, even in the future, and makes me like more inspired to continue creating and writing and just being creative, because it's nice to see people like come to shows and really engage with the arts. One of the things that like is absolutely priceless is that I have more time right now, time to spend with my loved ones, my friends who are still at uni, my family who are still here. Also, just to think about my priorities. When I finished uni and I still didn't have a full-time job, not getting what I was like programmed to do, which is, school, high school, college, uni, job, and then job. When I didn't get that, I was like a bittersweet sort of stop in the cycle, like putting the brakes on and being like, no. Not in the way that I feel like my life has stopped, but in a way that was like the expected life cycle, I guess, of a human being. And because it didn't happen as immediately, or it hasn't happened yet immediately, I sort of been forced to stop and think like, okay, but what is it I actually want? If I'm not getting what I was told to want, I might as well just think about what I actually want and work towards that. It's been such a good wake up call to me about if I want to earn somewhat of a living from writing at some point. It's not just gonna happen because I did the degree. I still have to continuously dedicate some time to it, and I have to make it a point to give it time, and not in the sense of like wait for success, also that, but financial success, but also that, but also like give it time as in actually give it my time consistently, because that's going to be more, that's good, then it's more of a realistic ambition than just a dream, which I really took for granted. One, when I was at uni and I was surrounded by writers, but two, when I was looking for jobs and I was like, I'll just have a full-time job and then I'll figure it out. It's nice to like be able to figure out my priorities now, while I have the time, so I don't feel, hopefully, touch wood, as lost when I get a job. Try to spend like 12 hours a month writing and then 20 hours a month creating, so that includes like fruitful productions like theater stuff and also this, and also continue going to dance classes and stuff like that. I might not see results immediately, like now, but 1 year, 2 years down the line, hopefully, this will come of use then. I did say earlier that it was a nice hit to the ego. But I wanted to include that in the pro as well because nothing is personal. Sometimes you work really hard and it doesn't work out. The most important pro is I got access to higher education in the UK in a subject that I really feel passionately about. And higher education in the humanities is genuinely, and I cannot emphasize this enough, life changing. Critical thinking has genuinely changed my life. It has changed all of my relationships, all of my friendships, the way I talk to myself, the way I talk to the world. Absolutely everything has changed because I can now think critically. And I know that might sound like an exaggeration, but trust me when I say it is not, especially in this generation of AI slop and like the downfall of media literacy. I am so grateful that I have the ability to think. Also, genuinely, a humanities degree just helps you or teaches you to care about people, about their stories, about our histories, about how much we can learn from other people and other cultures, and it teaches you like to care and to be a nice person. And of course, like you have a segment of people in humanities who are just not nice people, but for the most part, you just it just it just makes me so sad when I talk to my friends who are still at uni, who are in humanity subjects, and they're talking about their departments shrinking. It genuinely makes me so sad because human beings cannot exist without humanities, like an education in humanities. And I don't only mean at uni, just from a very young age, just not learning about can you imagine what kind of people we'd be if we didn't know our history, if we didn't know our languages, why people function the way they function? It would just be chaos. And I like it's just being taken for granted so much, and it really bothers me. Anyway, I might cry. My first creative writing seminar ever in my first year, I felt awful. I felt like such an imposter. Yeah, those first few seminars were rough. But when my seminar leader would, be like, you can change that bit to make it sound like this, and this is really confusing, but this is really good. And I'd be like, oh, you think it's really good? It means a lot to people who haven't had that before in like school and college, where you sort of like stay in your lane, do what you're told, and shut the fuck up. I haven't cried, luckily, so let's continue. I thought I'd ask myself, would I do anything differently while I was writing this? Because if you can't tell by now, this is clearly more for me than it is for you. Generally, not a regrets person. I don't like thinking about, would have, could have, should have, even though that's one of my favorite Taylor Swift songs. The only thing I could come up really was ask for help sooner. It's kind of vague, but there's no way I can elaborate on it. Just like if you need help, ask for it. I think that's the only thing I would have probably done differently. And just living in the moment more. Again, that's just like, it's vague, but you can't really elaborate on it. Almost done. I want to talk about overall thoughts. The first is just, it's genuinely terrifying that it's been 6 months. I'm probably looking at moving back home in the next 6 months. And it's just such a weird series of transitions where I'm going from being at uni and living around people like my age, doing things like doing uni, like surrounded by uni people and my friends who didn't live more than a 20-minute walk away, to going to living in the same place but living alone, and not like living with family alone, just living alone, period. And then 6 months later, going back and like living with family in a different country, like back home, being so far removed from the people I was surrounded by for 4 years. It's at this point where I'm like, I can't wait to be 30 and having lived in one place for more than a year and just be like, wow, I'm so glad I'm not like packing my life in a suitcase every 6 months. Also, I think one of the most important things to me is that I would have much rather tried and failed than spend the rest of my life thinking, I wonder what would have happened if I took the risk and stayed in the UK for another couple of months and tried to find a full-time job. Not a lot of people agreed with my decision, like in my family. I just knew that I would much rather struggle for a year and a bit and be like, oh, this is not working out, than not have tried and then thought about it for like the next 30 years of my life. Sometimes I just have to like zoom out and be like, I am so lucky that my biggest concern is full-time employment when literally half of the world is a war zone. I need to chill the fuck out. I know it's a wild sentence, but it's true. I would suggest personally zooming out once in a while. I have basic human rights, and when it rains, I have a room I can go to that keeps me dry and warm, that I refuse to take for granted. The other thing is cling on to your hobbies for dear life. It's fine. If you're in a similar boat to me, no matter what part of life you're in, no matter how old you are, it's okay to cling on to your hobbies for dear life. People will always have opinions. If you stay at home all day, people will have opinions. If you watch movies all day, people will have opinions. If you're out running all day, people will have opinions. So literally just do it. As long as you can come home to yourself at the end of the day, just do it. This is the one I struggle with the most, and it's the advice I would give myself, is that don't make it harder for yourself. It's already tough. It's already difficult. It's already stressful. Don't be your own bully. Don't undermine yourself. And my most important piece of advice is this. I will hold your hand when I say it. You don't have to be on LinkedIn for more than 10 minutes at a time. In fact, you shouldn't be on LinkedIn for more than 10 minutes at a time. Every time you open LinkedIn, you open a 10-minute timer alongside it, and you stop scrolling when those 10 minutes are over. Don't do it. Anyway, that's kind of all I have for today. I feel like I sort of rambled past many points there, but hopefully this is sort of a less provocative video about life since uni, because it's not aspirational or angry or super depressed. Hopefully this was like a more rounded recap. While you go set a 10-minute timer for yourself every time you open LinkedIn. I recommend Screen Zen, by the way. I am going to be in this corner of the internet, and I'll see you next month.